Welcome back, everyone, to another Eat Speed podcast, the most delicious podcast in the Metroplex. I'm Bud Kennedy.
And Steve Wilson.
Derek Walker is our guest today from Smoke-a-Holics, 1417 Evans Avenue in the heart of the Fort Worth Southside. Derek, it has been a year. Is that right?
It has. August 1st will actually be a year.
How did the barbecue, give me the barbecue family tree here, because you got your truck from Panther City, and that took over Heim's old space. And kind of what's the craft barbecue family tree, and where do you fit in?
Oh man, it's I guess in Fort Worth. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, but as far as takeoffs, I guess Heim took off first, and then Panther City kind of took off after him. I've been knowing Panther City and working with Panther City and doing things with them guys since like 03, 04. So I kind of came right after Panther City. But in the mix of us, you had Dane, and you had Trevor, you had Derek Allen, and you had Brandon, which is in Arlington, not quite Fort Worth, but right next door, Hurtado. So it was a barbecue explosion, shall I say?
Well, now, how did you know Chris and Ernie, or how did you and Panther City start out working together, and then and then you got off and got going not too far away?
Yeah, I met Chris and Ernie back in, I think, like 03, 04, somewhere in there, doing cook-offs. We were both cooking in the IBCA, doing barbecue comps, and I met those guys. We both had mutual friends, and we kind of linked up that way. And then I met them, and we did some comps, and I'd go hang out at their cook site. They'd hang out at my cook site. We'd share tips, tricks, and whatnot. And the friendship kind of blossomed, and it just continued over the years. When they when I was doing pop-ups, they'd show up at my pop-ups. When they were doing pop-ups, I'd show up at theirs. And we just kind of supported each other morally throughout this thing since we first began. So the friendship blossomed long ago, and it's just continued. Last week, week before last, we did a joint barbecue class together for Father's Day at Panther City, and that turned out great. Sold out within 48 hours. So that turned out great too. So just real good friends of mine.
For people who haven't been to Smoke-a-Holics, what makes your barbecue a little different from Panther City or Heim, what the other craft barbecue places do? What's your Tex Soul barbecue?
So I chose to stick closer to my roots. Like I've said before, there's been an influx of Tex-Mex barbecue throughout Texas. A lot of pitmasters of Hispanic origin, and even pitmasters who aren't of Hispanic origin tend to go Tex-Mex just because it's popular. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stick to my roots, so I coined the phrase Tex Soul. So my barbecue is more soul food influence. I wouldn't say the barbecue is. The barbecue is pretty much Texas style barbecue, but the sides, the desserts are all soul food influence. So we do a lot. We do collard greens here. We do, instead of baked mac and cheese, we do a smoked mac and cheese, which is just like your grandmother's baked mac and cheese recipe. We do, from time to time, we may have candy yams. We may have broccoli rice and cheese casserole. We got cornbread, banana pudding, scratch peach cobblers, and, the cakes, and just everything that we do is kind of, like I say, from a Southern soul food influence vibe.
Steve, ask him some barbecue questions.
Well, let's see. Of course, are you having trouble getting rib tips?
At the moment, I'm not. Maybe a month and a half ago, we were, when we were limited to 2 cases from one of the local suppliers. But everything's kind of rebounded, and now we're good. We can pretty much get everything. And
those tips, tips of the was it St. Louis cut or
no? So what it is, it's the top part of the spare rib. And when you trim a full spare to a St. Louis, you cut the tips. The tips are removed, and usually those are discarded by a lot of people, or they cut off the meaty portion and use it to make sausage and their grind or whatnot. But I started cooking them for cook snacks, because every pitmaster knows, and during long cooks, you need something to snack on. So I used to trim spares to St. Louis, and I would cook the tips, and we would snack on them. And they were so good, everybody started saying, "Hey, man, you need to start selling these." So that's exactly what I did, and they kind of just blew up.
And you said you had a cornbread dish that was selling real well?
Yeah, we have a dish here that we call loaded cornbread. So it's a huge slab, man, of honey butter cornbread, and we top it with baked beans, And our baked beans already have ground beef, bacon, bell pepper, onion, and a lot of spices, brown sugar, and whatnot. So we top the cornbread with that, and then it gets chopped brisket, it gets barbecue sauce, it gets green onion, shredded cheddar cheese, and sour cream. And that thing is kind of taking off, man. Every day we sell, I don't care how many pans of cornbread I make, it's gone.
What time do y'all sell out? Because I still see on Facebook this picture of the sign that look at your door that has your picture on the door and says sold out.
Sold SOU LED, and that's getting earlier and earlier.
Yeah, it kind of evened out back to 4. At one while, it was like 3 o'clock, and that was nuts. I found a way to cook a little bit more, and now it's about 4 o'clock. But we have another smoker on the way from AJ at AJ's Custom Cookers, and hopefully we'll be able to get closer to our 7 o'clock mark.
There was a reason that you wanted to stay in the 1400 block of Evans Avenue, and you've told me that story, but tell it again. I mean, you didn't go anywhere else. You wanted to be right there, and talk about that.
Yeah, this is home. I was born and raised right here. My mom and dad still live 5 minutes down the street, so if I need to go check on mom, I can. She's right down the road. Ran up and down these streets in my youth, and I just really couldn't fathom being anywhere else. We had a couple of other prospects, a couple of other places that we could have gone, but this building just kept drawing us and pulling us back here. So I'm glad that it did, and that this is where we ended up, because like I say, I feel like I'm home.
What do you want everybody else to know about Evans Avenue and the growth and the changes and coming over to Evans Avenue? What do you want everybody else watching this listening to this podcast to know?
Well, if you hadn't been here in a while and you're thinking that this is Evans from 1995, it isn't. So don't get hung up on the area and thinking that it's bad. It's really quiet over here now, and friendly, and lots of diversity. It's not the same Evans that I grew up on at all. It's a very diverse area. It's growing. There are other businesses coming to the area, and if you're wondering about it, come see.
Man, that's great. Derek Walker, thank you very much. Smoke-a-holics, 1417 Evans Avenue, in the heart of the sunny South Side in Fort Worth. Until next time on the Eat Speak Podcast, I'm Bud Kennedy.
And Steve Wilson.